Well, when all else fails, and I don't know what else to talk about on this channel, why not go for the one thing that I enjoy talking about a bunch, the one thing I know you guys like when I talk about, lost media. When it comes to talking about lost media, I like to keep it fresh, I like to keep it interesting. There's been rumors and legends about the ones I'm going to be talking about today. You can call these pieces of lost media in which their existence is unconfirmed. There's been some talk of these on the internet, but just not enough official, concrete evidence to prove that these things existed to begin with. As I've said before, lost media, I like it, I like the vibe it gives off, it's a bit eerie. I chalk that up to it being the fear of the unknown, like where are these pieces of lost media? And this I feel like is the holy grail when it comes to that. Not only are some of these pieces kind of eerie as they are, but the fact that it's not even certain whether they exist or not just kind of adds to it. So I'm really looking forward to talking about these with all of you. As per usual with these lost media videos, I want to thank the Lost Media Wiki. They have just tons of information on lost media. The bulk of my research for this video came from the articles on there. So go read about them. You can read about the ones I'll be talking about today. You can read about a bunch of the other ones they have on there. I'm really only going to cover surface level stuff in this video, so if you want to learn more about what I'm going to be talking about today, highly encourage you guys to go on there, do some reading, come to your own conclusions about whether these pieces exist or not. And before we get into the main 5 on the list, I will be giving my take on whether I personally think that these pieces of lost media are real or fake. You're welcome to disagree with me, that's what the comment section's for. I think you guys get the gist of this by now, so let's get into it. These are 5 pieces of lost media that may or may not exist. Okay, so number 1 is the babushka lady footage. The day was November 22nd, 1963, the day many historians know as the assassination of President John F. Kennedy at the Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. Now, there were a lot of people in the plaza that day, and there are a number of conspiracy theories on some of the people in the crowd. There's the umbrella man, this guy who had this umbrella. People thought he was kind of shady, and no pun intended, but it's said that he brought that umbrella because it was this bright, sunny day. But the one we're going to be talking about today is a little bit more interesting, a little bit more intriguing, and that person of interest is the babushka lady. Nobody knows who she really is. She's called the babushka lady because of that headscarf she's wearing. She can be seen in several photos taken on that fateful day. And in this particular photo here, the way she's holding her hands up, many people have come to believe that she's actually holding a camera and recording everything. And this particular photo was allegedly taken after JFK was shot. As you can see, there's all these people on the ground, but there she is standing up, like covering her face. And a lot of people believe that she had a camera and was recording the assassination, just standing there calmly, unfazed by what's going on. This woman has never been identified and her footage has never surfaced anywhere. And there's this story that's floated around about how she did record footage of that day, was planning to do something with it, but a couple FBI agents showed up at her house, took the footage from her. She asked if they could give it back at some point. They said yes, and then she never got it back. Now, I'm not sure the validity of that story. There's really little to nothing to prove that that actually happened. It could just be an urban legend. So all we really have to go off of are these photos. Now, personally, looking at these photos, yeah, the way she's holding her hands up are a bit odd, but I don't see a camera anywhere. I'm not 100% certain that she even had one. You know, she's standing while everybody else is down on the ground. Maybe that's just her way of processing what's going on. There's been legends that she was even like a Russian man disguised. It's just, there's a lot more to this one, so I highly encourage you guys to do your own research. But yeah, I've looked at these photos, I don't see a camera. According to eyewitness testimonies, people there said that she did have one, but who knows? It was a crazy day, people got killed, the President of the United States got killed, who knows if people are remembering things correctly. So yeah, if I had to take a stance on this one, I'm gonna say that this footage does not exist. There is just not a whole lot to support this case. We're going off of photos from 1963, which are pretty blurry, and, you know, eyewitness testimonies. And again, crazy day, who knows if people are remembering things correctly amid the chaos. I mean, this is one of the most infamous incidents in the entire history of the US. You would think that any additional footage would have been used, even in like the court cases, you know, trying to get to the bottom of everything that went down that day. But there's just not a whole lot here. You know, you have things like the Zapruder film, which are out and available to the public. So you'd think even if this footage from the babushka lady did exist, that it would be archived somewhere, like somebody would come out and say, yes, it does exist, we're just not going to release it. But there's just nothing. This is practically an urban legend. So I'm going to say the babushka lady footage does not exist. Okay, number 2 is the LOL Superman shock video. Before I get into this, I'm going to get into some graphic detail here. We're talking about yet another infamous event in the history of the US, that being the September 11th attacks. Over 2,000 people lost their lives, and a significant amount of those casualties, of course, they were in the World Trade Center in New York. And for what is many people, including myself perhaps, it was just obviously a very disturbing day. But one of the more disturbing elements of it were the people who jumped out of the towers to their deaths. There was no way of escape, there was no way of getting out. They had to make the ultimate choice of being burned to death or jumping to their death. Anybody above, I believe it was the 78th floor, could not get down because of the staircases that were destroyed when the planes hit. So basically, this LOL Superman video was allegedly a shock video circulating YouTube in 2006, and basically in the video, it showed the people who jumped from the towers landing with the ground. It showed that impact. It's unsure whether the video, if it exists, was actually titled LOL Superman, but it was something along those lines. And then, of course, YouTube flagged it, took it down due to its graphic nature, and a lot of people flagged the video. So the video has been referenced a few times in the years since then, on 4chan a few times, and most recently last year on Reddit. The mention on Reddit last year was what got the search going in an attempt to find it. A bunch of people have come forward saying that they do remember the video, so not a whole lot came from these search efforts. There was one photo allegedly coming from security footage on the day of 9/11, and if you look way in the background, you could see two men approaching the plaza. So the rumor has it that if the video exists, these two men were the ones who filmed it. Another part of the search, which ended up being debunked, was that they had thought that they had found the thumbnail of the video. This is it right here. They used this alleged thumbnail as the basis of the search for quite a while, but it ended up being debunked earlier this year in January, when it was discovered that it came from a tourist video that was filmed 2 months before 9/11. So now the one piece of tangible evidence that they had was now debunked, so they were now going off of absolutely nothing, no footage, no screenshots. The thing about this one, though, is that there have been a lot of contradicting reports about what exactly happens in the video itself. Some people say that the bodies were landing on top of cars, while others say there were no cars in it at all. There would not be any cars in the World Trade Center Plaza. Now, these people may be misremembering the details of the video. They may be confusing the details with other videos. Now, this one was a tough one for me. I am genuinely kind of on the fence about whether this one is real or fake. But for the sake of giving you guys an answer, I'm going to say yes, I do believe that this LOL Superman video was a real thing. The details of the video, although some of them are contradictory, they're descriptive enough. The fact that people associate it with 9/11, that's gotta mean something, right? I mean, if I just saw a video of a guy hitting the ground, I don't know that I would go right to 9/11. And you also have to keep in mind, this was 2006. I think YouTube was only a year old. There are a lot of things that were posted. I remember I joined YouTube in like 2009. So many of the videos that I watched back then are just not around anymore, and they were just normal videos. So a really graphic video in 2006 being swiftly removed from the internet in its entirety honestly doesn't surprise me all that much. And another alleged report is that the FBI themselves did confirm that footage along the lines of that featured in the LOL Superman video does exist within their archives. I could not find a source to confirm that though, so take it with a grain of salt. So I really don't think it's crazy to say that this video did exist. That being said, at the end of the day, whether or not this video exists or not, if it does, I don't really mind if it stays lost for the sake of the victims of 9/11 and their families. There's really just no need for this one to come out. I get the interest in it, but really, I have no desire to see it. Alright, so on to the next one. Number 3 is the Tombstone Thunderbird photo. There is a lot of backstory to this one. I'm only going to cover the surface level details. If you want to learn more about this one, highly encourage you to do your own research. So legend has it that back in the year 1890 in Tombstone, Arizona, these ranchers killed this giant bird. And when I say giant, I mean huge, like bigger than any bird I've ever seen in my life, or even ones that I've seen photos of. They nailed the body of the bird to the wall, and a bunch of guys posed in front of it for a photo. This story was posted in the Tombstone Epitaph, which was a local newspaper in Tombstone, and it described the bird as resembling the mythical Thunderbird. In the legends of the Thunderbird, it stated that it has supernatural abilities, such as conjuring thunder and lightning. So it's kind of a legend along the lines of Bigfoot, like does this creature exist or not? The story of this photo is very similar to the alleged video of Bigfoot, but there's really just no concrete evidence to prove the existence of the Thunderbird or this photo of it. There's a lot of conflicting reports on this one, a lot of he said, she said, so much so that I could probably do an entire video on the Thunderbird story alone. I'm not going to do that though, because there's actually a few of these on YouTube already, so go check them out. But I'll do my best to summarize. So basically, the guy who claimed to have seen the photo in that initial article in the Tombstone Epitaph could have been exaggerating the whole thing, just coming up with this elaborate hoax to get people talking. Other people have come out since then claiming that they have or have had copies of this alleged photo. One guy who claimed to have a copy actually died in a house fire, and it's said that the photo burned along with the house. Another guy claimed he had it, but he's kind of had contradicting reports about it. He said it did get burned in a fire, but then he ended up saying it got stolen. Like I said, a lot to this one. So yeah, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I think this whole story is false. I do not believe this photo exists. Contradictory reports, misremembering. We're really going off of nothing except a couple of people saying, yeah, I've seen it. And the year was 1890. There was no photo in that initial article. There wasn't even any information on the ranchers who killed the bird. I just feel like if this really happened, it would be like national news, even if it gets forgotten about. Like, it would be a big deal at the time, and it was just kind of glossed over in this newspaper. But I get the excitement, I get why you do something like this to begin with. Going back to the Bigfoot comparison, it's fun and exciting to debate about whether this creature exists or not, and it wouldn't surprise me if you had people sort of faking, over-exaggerating things to keep that legend alive. A bunch of people chalk this one off to the Mandela effect, which I can completely understand. I think that initial story just created this massive frenzy. Maybe people read it as kids, and so they took it with them into adulthood, really believing it was real. Because yeah, that story came out in 1890, and the big frenzy, the big people remembering they have the photos thing happened in the 1950s. It's easy for details to be misconstrued. I just don't think the photo was ever real. I think it's just a fun urban legend. But hey, if this photo ever surfaces, then cool. The Thunderbird is real. Awesome, guys. Just let me know. All right, number 4 is the Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix lost unmuted audio. I've talked about Harry Potter before in a previous Lost Media video. We're doing the same thing again today. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, many people know, it's the 5th film in the Harry Potter film series. It was released in 2007, and spoilers for Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, but for those who know or have seen it, Sirius Black unfortunately dies at the end of the film. Harry lets out that scream. It looks really real, really painful, but in the film it's muted. You don't actually hear it. Now, according to David Yates, the director of the film, the audio was muted to add weight to the moment, give the audience a moment to process the death of Sirius along with the characters, as opposed to just getting their reactions and moving on. However, there is a rumor that the scream was muted because of how painful and emotional it was. So much so, in fact, that it caused 3 actresses to cry: Emma Watson, who plays Hermione, Bonnie Wright, who plays Ginny, and Helena Bonham Carter, who plays Bellatrix, who kills Sirius, allegedly cried at Daniel Radcliffe's scream. There's also an unconfirmed report that Daniel Radcliffe had a family member pass away a couple weeks before filming that scene, and so he tapped into that grief in his performance. But yeah, none of those things are actually confirmed, and it's unknown whether this audio exists in the Warner Brothers archives, or if it was never even filmed or recorded to begin with. If the plan all along was to mute the scream, then odds are they may not have recorded sound while filming it. Now, I believe Daniel Radcliffe actually screamed. I don't think he just kind of moved his mouth and no sound came out. I'm sure he screamed for real. But I guess that's the question, is did they record it or not? Now, I'm going to use my filmmaking background on the verge of this one. I'm going to say, yes, they recorded it. Yes, this audio is real. Does exist somewhere, probably in Warner Brothers archives. One thing I was taught in film school was the importance of getting coverage. Whether or not you actually use it or not, just get it just in case you end up using it. So for that reason, I'm gonna say yes, they were rolling sound on this take just for the sake of coverage, for the sake of having it. Will this ever get released? I don't know. Really couldn't tell you. If the Peeves scene hasn't been released, then I highly doubt this one's gonna fare any better. But if we're focusing on the mere question of does it exist, I'm gonna say yes, it does. So maybe we'll see it one day, or hear it. Alright, so this last one is absolutely bonkers, so here we go. Number 5 is the Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse sex tape. I'm sure this exists somewhere on the internet, let's just put it that way. But we're not talking about the thousands of pieces of photos or videos that probably exist already on the internet. We're going to be talking about one in particular. So basically, in 1994, this guy, Mark Elliott, wrote a biography called Walt Disney, Hollywood's Dark Prince. Elliott was known for writing biographies on important pop culture figures. Now, there's obviously a lot in this biography, but we're going to be talking about one part in particular. So legend has it, the year was 1936. Roy Disney, the brother of Walt Disney, was putting together a surprise birthday party for his brother, and a couple animators thought it would be the funniest thing in the world if they created a short animation of Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse being intimate. That's the way I'll put it for this video. So they created the animation, they showed it at the party, expecting Walt Disney to get a real hoot and holler out of it. And Disney's response was he laughed and praised the animation. And then he asked who created it. Of course, the two animators came forward, and Disney fired them right there on the spot. He ordered the tape to be destroyed. So yeah, just getting right to it, I think this one's fake. For a couple reasons. First off, those who worked for Walt Disney around that time, who read the biography, claimed that there was a bunch of inconsistencies and incorrect information in it. And yeah, Mark Elliott is a secondary source. It's not like he was there when all of this went down. This is a guy who makes a living off of writing about other people. Is it really improbable that he would throw some crazy story in there for the sake of getting attention and getting people to read his book? Because we're basically going off of one guy's testimony. There's a lot of talk about how Walt Disney was, what his work etiquette was like, and maybe a lot of that is true, but I do not believe that this particular story is true at all. And yeah, even if it was, there's another one, I don't want to see it. I don't need to have that image in my brain. It's bad enough I already do just talking about it. I don't need to see it in front of me. Alright, so that was 5 pieces of lost media that may or may not exist. So just to summarize, Babushka Lady footage doesn't exist. LOL Superman video does exist. Tombstone Thunderbird photo does not exist. Order the Phoenix audio does exist. And finally, Mickey Minnie Mouse sex tape does not exist. Guys, I really enjoyed talking about these pieces, sharing this information with you, telling you what I think, but now I want to hear what all of you think. Out of all the 5 pieces today, which ones do you think are real, and which ones do you think are not? Does anyone think all of these exist? Does anyone think all of these do not exist? Is there another piece of lost media you guys enjoy with an unconfirmed existence? Regardless of what your answers to these questions are, let me know in the comments below. You guys are welcome to have a field day down there talking about lost media. Thanks again to the Lost Media Wiki. Always enjoy reading stuff on there, literally just in my free time, not just for the videos. In fact, most of my time in the Lost Media Wiki is just me reading about stuff. If you guys like when I talk about lost media, show the video some love, and I'll definitely do it again in the future. And yeah, that is going to do it for me today, guys. Stay frosty, all you beautiful people. Have a great one.